Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. I want you to imagine taking a highly personalized, complex cancer treatment that usually requires, weeks of painstaking lab work.
Right, which is an agonizing wait.
Exactly. And turning it into something you can just pull right off the shelf, ready to use the very moment a patient needs it.
Yeah, that is the exact medical breakthrough we're looking at today.
And our mission for you today is to break down the market winners and losers based on this specific trial data.
Because, when a medical bottleneck gets solved, the money moves fast. And it moves with very specific logic.
Right, so let's get right to the focal point here. Allogene Therapeutics, which trades under the ticker ALLO, saw its shares jump more than 55% in early trading.
Wow.
Yeah, and we are looking at mid-stage trial data for their therapy called Cema-cel.
So Cema-cel is an off-the-shelf CAR-RT therapy for blood cancer. And the trial results showed that this therapy successfully cut the risk of relapse in patients. But just as crucially, from both a medical and a market perspective, it presented clean safety data with absolutely no serious adverse events.
Right, and clean safety data in oncology is always a major catalyst. But to truly understand why the market reacted so aggressively and why certain stocks are winning while others are losing today, we really have to look at the underlying mechanics of this treatment.
We do.
I actually want to use an analogy here to clarify the medical mechanism for you. Think of traditional CAR-RT therapy like a custom-tailored suit.
Okay, I like that comparison.
To get that custom suit, the tailor literally has to measure you, send the specifications away, and then you just wait weeks for the fabric to be cut and sewn.
And in the context of cancer, that waiting period is not just a minor inconvenience. It is weeks of potential disease progression.
Exactly. You are waiting for the suit, hoping your body doesn't change in the meantime. It is highly individualized and just painfully slow. Allogene's approach, on the other hand, is like an off-the-rack garment.
You just walk in and buy it.
Right. You walk into the store, the garment is already manufactured, it's sitting in inventory, and it is ready to be worn immediately. So exactly what makes this pre-manufactured approach operate faster than the older models?
Well, it comes down to the biology of cell collection. Traditional CAR-T therapies rely on a patient's own cells. So the medical term for this is an autologous process.
Autologous, okay.
Yeah, because it relies on the individual patient. Doctors have to extract the patient's white blood cells, freeze them, ship them to a specialized manufacturing facility, genetically engineer those specific cells to hunt cancer, multiply them.
And then ship them all the way back.
Exactly. Ship them all the way back to the hospital for reinfusion. That entire logistical chain takes weeks.
Which is an absolute eternity for someone battling aggressive blood cancer.
It truly is. But Allogene Cema-cel uses healthy donor T cells instead. Because they are donor-derived, the therapy can be manufactured in large batches well in advance.
Oh.
Yeah, it is pre-manufactured, frozen in vials, and just ready to go at the hospital pharmacy. The entire collection and manufacturing wait time is completely bypassed.
And the fact that they achieved this with clean safety data is the real breakthrough here, right?
Well, absolutely.
Because using donor cells historically carries the risk of the patient's immune system rejecting the cells or, the donor cells actually attacking the patient's body.
Right. Graft versus host disease.
Exactly. Navigating that biological minefield without serious adverse events is what justifies a 55% stock jump.
That is the exact variable driving the market action today. Clean safety data from a faster, donor-derived approach naturally attracts capital to specific related sectors.
So we are going to walk through the distinct categories of market winners right now, starting with the first group, which is off-the-shelf CRT and cell therapy developers.
Investors look at the Allogene data and, they immediately assign more value to pre-manufactured platforms across the board. Because if Allogene can prove the concept is viable and safe, the market assumes other developers using similar underlying technology have a higher probability of success.
Because they also bypass the agonizing wait times associated with those patient-specific custom suit therapies.
Precisely. But, it goes beyond just saving time. The market is pricing in the possibility of this model expanding into broader community use.
What do you mean by that?
Well, currently, traditional CAR-RT is so complex that it is mostly administered in specialized, highly resourced academic hospitals. But if you have an off-the-shelf product that doesn't require a highly specialized infrastructure to collect and transport patient cells,
then the therapy can theoretically be administered in wider community-based medical centers.
Exactly. And that massively expands the total addressable market.
Got it. So the specific tickers in this winning category, based on this read-through, include Allogene Therapeutics itself, ticker ALLO. Then we have Autologous Therapeutics, ticker AUTL, and Adaptimmune Therapeutics, ticker ADAP. And all of these are U.S.-listed names with direct exposure to this cell therapy innovation.
Which leads directly to our second category of winners, Oncology Biotech sentiment names.
Right, so this group benefits from the overall temperature of the biotech environment. When mid-stage cancer data shows strong efficacy and a clean safety profile, it just lifts the risk appetite across the board for investors.
It specifically lifts risk appetite for smaller U.S.-listed oncology and immunotherapy stocks. The psychology here is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Biotech investing is inherently risky, so when a company like Allogene posts a win, institutional investors feel more confident about the underlying science of the sector as a whole. They take that optimism and apply it to other smaller developers.
Especially the ones banking entirely on make-or-break trial results. In our reporting, these are referred to as companies with binary clinical catalysts.
Yes, a binary catalyst is an upcoming clinical trial result that acts as a pass-or-fail event for the stock.
It's essentially a coin flip.
It's exactly a coin flip. And a positive read-through from Allogene makes investors feel like the odds on those other coin flips just improve slightly.
This optimism also flows heavily into companies with platform-based pipelines, right?
It does. A platform-based pipeline means the company isn't just relying on one single drug. They have a foundational technology, like a specific method of engineering cells, that can be applied to multiple different therapies.
So a win for one is a win for many.
Right. If the market feels confident about the broader oncology space, capital flows into these platform names because a win for their technology could yield half a dozen different commercial drugs down the line.
Okay, so the specific tickers benefiting in this oncology biotech sentiment category are Cullinan Therapeutics, ticker CGEM, Kyverna Therapeutics, ticker KYTX, and Bluebird Bio, ticker BLUE.
Which brings us to the third category of winners. And this involves the cell therapy tools and manufacturing ecosystem.
Wait, hold on. I mean, I get why rival drug makers react, and I understand why small biotech companies catch a bid when sentiment improves. But why on earth would a logistics or physical tools company jump just because a drug developer had a good clinical trial?
Well, it is what the market refers to as a sympathy read-through, and it is entirely based on the physical bottleneck of infrastructure. Broader adoption of cell therapies requires a staggering amount of physical and logistical support.
Because you cannot just mix these treatments in a standard chemistry lab.
Exactly. These are living cells. They require specialized bioreactors, advanced filtration systems, sterile testing environments, and complex cold chain logistics.
Oh, wow.
So if investors are pricing in a future where these off-the-shelf therapies are used widely in local community clinics, rather than just a few academic hospitals, the demand for the underlying infrastructure skyrockets.
So it is the classic picks and shovels scenario. Like during a gold rush, the people selling the shovels often make the most reliable profit.
That is the exact dynamic. This sympathy read-through specifically benefits U.S.-listed suppliers and service companies that support biologics development, manufacturing, and scaling.
Makes total sense.
If more off-the-shelf CAR-T therapies are successfully moving through the clinical pipeline, these service companies will see a direct increase in demand for their manufacturing capabilities.
Okay, so the companies representing this tools and manufacturing ecosystem include Charles River Laboratories, ticker CRL, Danaher, ticker DHR, and Agilent Technologies, ticker A.
And that covers the three distinct categories of winners.
Which means we need to look at the other side of the trade because, capital is finite.
Right.
If money is rotating aggressively into these off-the-shelf platforms and their suppliers, those funds are explicitly rotating out of older models and unrelated sectors. Let's break down the losers, starting with the first category.
The first category of losers is exactly who you would expect. Companies with legacy autologous CRT exposure. These are the companies relying heavily on the incumbent treatment model.
The makers of the custom-tailored suits.
Correct. The pharmaceutical companies heavily invested in the model that takes weeks to collect patients' own cells, modify them in a distant lab, and reinfuse them. These incumbent companies face a massive, direct competitive threat.
Let's look at the reality of a hospital setting for a second. If a doctor is sitting across from a patient with an aggressive blood cancer and they have the choice between a treatment that is sitting in the hospital pharmacy ready to be administered today
Versus a treatment that takes 3 to 5 weeks of waiting.
Yeah, exactly. The choice is obvious. The market assumes the faster option will absolutely dominate, provided the safety and efficacy hold up.
That is the exact competitive pressure worrying investors right now. The companies facing this pressure on their incumbent treatment models are some of the largest players in the space. Gilead Sciences, ticker GILD, Bristol Myers Squibb, ticker BMY, and Johnson & Johnson, ticker JNJ.
I mean, that is a list of absolute heavyweights in the pharmaceutical world. But the rotation doesn't stop with the direct to CAR T competitors, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Because that brings us to the second category of losers: traditional treatment pathway pressure.
Right. This broadens the scope of the competitive threat considerably. We discussed earlier that investors are pricing in the possibility of off-the-shelf CAR-AT moving into earlier treatment settings.
We should probably explain what treatment settings actually means in practice for you listening. In oncology, treatments are usually given in sequential lines.
Right.
First-line therapy is the initial treatment, often standard chemotherapy. If the cancer returns, you move to second-line therapy, then third line, and so on. Currently, traditional CAR-AT is often reserved for patients in their fourth or fifth line of therapy.
Simply because it is so complex, slow, and expensive. It is treated as a later stage option. But if off-the-shelf CAR-AT is fast, scalable, and safe, doctors will naturally want to use it much earlier in the patient's journey.
Right.
And if earlier intervention becomes a reality, the therapies currently occupying the second and third lines of the treatment pathway face severe pressure.
Because they simply get skipped over. Capital actively rotates toward the next generation immunotherapy winners, which means it rotates away from the drugs that currently occupy those earlier steps in the established sequence of care.
The market is forward-looking. It sees the clean data from Allogene today and envisions a future where the established sequence of blood cancer care is completely rewritten.
Yeah.
So the pharmaceutical companies that manufacture those earlier line treatments will inevitably lose market share.
So the specific tickers facing this traditional treatment pathway pressure include Merck, ticker MRK, Pfizer, ticker PFE, and AbbVie, ticker ABB.
Finally, we have the third category of losers. And this group is not driven by direct medical competition at all.
Oh.
No, it is driven purely by the mechanics of capital rotation during a live trading session. This category is the high multiple large cap pharma and biotech names without a catalyst.
Break down the exact mechanics of that rotation for the listener. Like, why do massive defensive healthcare names lose out on a day when a smaller biotech company posts a major win?
It comes down to the psychology of the institutional portfolio manager. As we noted, capital is finite. You have portfolio managers sitting at their desks, and they see a smaller biotech company post a clinical surprise.
Right. They see Allogene jump 55%.
Exactly. They know they need to capture some of that aggressive growth to meet their performance benchmarks.
So they need to buy the emerging winners and their related high beta peers. High beta meaning stocks that are more volatile and more sensitive to market momentum, like the smaller oncology names we discussed earlier.
Right. But to fund those aggressive purchases, they need cash. And where do they get the cash? They pull capital out of larger defensive healthcare names.
They sell their safe havens.
Exactly. These large-cap companies are highly valued, stable, and generally viewed as safe places to park money. But they do not have an immediate catalyst driving rapid growth on this particular trading day.
So they just become a source of funds.
Yes. Portfolio managers hit the sell button on these stable giants to free up liquidity. The money simply flows to where the immediate action and growth potential are located, leaving the defensive names to lag on a relative basis during the session.
The capital leaves the defensive posture to chase the new catalyst, so it is a mechanical market reaction, not a reflection of the larger company's fundamental business failing.
Right, exactly.
The specific high multiple large cap names lagging in this scenario are Amgen, ticker AMGN, Biogen, ticker BIIB, and Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, ticker REGN.
And that completes the breakdown of the capital rotation. We track the funds moving toward the speed and infrastructure of the new allogeneic model and watch the capital actively drain away from the slow incumbents, the traditional pathway providers, and the defensive plays.
Let's briefly recap exactly what we covered for you today. We started with the focal point headline regarding Allogene Therapeutics and their off-the-shelf CAR-AD trial data for cema-cel. We saw how clean safety data and a reduced risk of relapse proved the viability of a pre-manufactured approach. And we walked through the exact market winners: the off-the-shelf developers, the broader oncology biotech sentiment names catching the sympathy bid, and the cell therapy tools ecosystem providing the physical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Then we mapped out the exact losers. The legacy autologous CAR-T companies relying on the slow, custom-suit model, the traditional treatment pathway providers facing early-line competition, and those high-multiple, large-cap defensive names being sold to fund the rotation.
It leaves you with a thought to mull over.
Yep.
If pre-manufactured donor-derived T cells become the standard due to their incredible speed, how will the entire timeline of blood cancer care evolve for patients who previously had to wait weeks in agonizing uncertainty for collection and modification?
This is not financial advice or buy or sell recommendations. This is purely the opinion of the author.